everybody. It's the Neighborhood Medicine Man. I got a few topics I want to discuss tonight. Um, I have the book of notes. It's right there. Um, I wanted to talk about the subject of what is magic. A lot of times we get our interpretation as to what magic is from religion, from spirituality, from mythology. But I'm here today to give you a scientific definition as to what magic really is. Because, like I say, a lot of times we derive our interpretation from mystical or allegorical means or spiritual. But magic in essence is very scientific. The powers that people carry, the powers that we all have, be it telekinesis type powers or abilities, or the abilities of telepathy, is strictly based on some chemicals and some minerals that's in your body. One of the minerals in particular that's in your body is called magnetite. Magnetite. Magnetite is like a lodestone. It's an iron oxide. It's a lodestone. It's very magnetic. It's one of the few stones that are truly magnetic. So it's like when you have a magnetite stone, you can put a paper clip to it, and this magnetite stone would pick up the paper clip because it is truly magnetic. One of the most magnetic stones they are. The magnetite, which magnets are made of. So when we look at the magnetite stone, we got to ask ourselves, like, okay, what exactly is the purpose of the magnetite? It's magnetic, correct? What is the purpose of it in our bodies? From research, I've discovered that magnetite is very prominent in two regions of the brain. One is the brain stem, and the other is the cerebellum. But what is the purpose? Because magnetites are what magnets are made of, correct? And so magnets are made of that stone called magnetite. So it has a repelling side and it has an attraction side. But the question still is, what is the purpose of it in our brains? And that's where we're going to go at tonight. Magnetite is in nanoparticles. It's in nanoparticles. That means very small microscopic particles in our brains. So it creates a magnetic field from all of the particles scattered around our brain. It creates a magnetic field. But what is the purpose of this in magic? That's the question. What is the purpose of magnetite in magic or in our magical way of thinking? Outside of religion, traditions, cultures, and what occult metaphysical science says, there is a science that includes that magnetite helps us to be able to project our thoughts and helps us to be able to attract thoughts to us, ideas, emotions. It helps to attract physical things to us also, based on the way we think, how we think, and how long we hold those thoughts in our consciousness. Okay? So when we say, what is magic? We're looking at it from a different perspective now. So the perspective we're looking at it from is, suppose we take away the mythology. Suppose we separate magic from religion. Suppose we separate the concept of magic from any kind of attributes that we've been programmed to accept. And we look at our bodies, we look at our brains, and we look at the hemoglobins in our body. Hemoglobin, deoxygenated hemoglobin, which is in our blood, which controls the red blood cells, which creates red blood cells, is very magnetic. So, which means that when I say non-oxygenated, deoxygenated hemoglobin, it comes from the concept of, here's how it works. When you hold your breath, you're denying your body oxygen, correct? And so when you deny your body oxygen, what happens is the hemoglobins becomes deoxygenated, meaning minus oxygen, has less and less and less oxygen. The less oxygen that your hemoglobins in your body have, the more magnetic it becomes. So this is why in certain spiritual practices, quote unquote, people practice certain types of breathings. People practice holding their breath. Because when you hold your breath, you're actually creating a magnetic field and you're expanding that magnetic field in your body by holding your breath. The magnetite that grows naturally in your brain is just like having a lodestone in your hand. You can take a lodestone. For those of us that work with lodestones, you can take a lodestone and you can pick up metal objects with it. It's attached to metal objects because it's truly magnetic. So in our brains, and when it comes to magic, magnetite is one of the mineral ores that's responsible for allowing us to have the ability to transmute the power of those minerals in our brain into magical powers. You see? So where does archetypes fit in this equation? Do we really need archetypes to manifest our goals, our wishes, our desires? No, we really don't. A lot of things such as archetypes were employed by the ancients as tools for us to discover exactly what powers we possess. For example, particular archetypes. So let's look at the archangels, for example, like the archangel Raphael. Rapha in Hebrew means to heal. So when we tap into the Raphael energy, what we're doing is tapping into the healing aspect within us, because this particular archetype is not to be viewed as something that is external. It's something that's internal. But that's another conversation. So magnetite, magnetic fields in our brains, it gives us the ability to be magnetic, of course. Magnetic field of our body is responsible for our aura and how you can read the aura of someone. Having magnetite in the brain also is very important for our sense of direction. You ever been driving down the street and in a place where you don't know, you're not familiar with this place at all, and you turn one corner, you turn another corner, you turn another corner, you go down this long road and you turn around and you try to come back? Not only does memory kick in, but it's the magnetite that's in your brain that gives you a sense of direction. The same ore is in the brain of birds when they migrate for the winter. The same ore is in the brain of bears when they hibernate. It gives them a sense of direction. It gives them a sense of season so they can recognize the energies around them. Now, is it possible for us to use and tap into the power of our own magnetic field? This is the purpose of this video, talking about magic. And if we separate everything we've presently learned about magic, and we decide to say, okay, let's look at our bodies. We are the greatest tools of magic. And we know that. Like we can have candles, we can have altars, we can have personal concerns, we can have pictures. All of these things are just tools, but the greatest tool is your body, because your body is the magic wand, as we would call it. It is that instrument that we can use to project energy or to bring in energy. Like, for example, one thing I teach my students is about the hands. The hands is very important in magic. The eyes is very important in magic. The reason that the eyes is very important is because the eyes project light. There is a fluorescent lens in the back of your eyes that collects light. It collects it. Research it. It's a fluorescent lens in the back of your eye that collects light. So when you stare at something, and this has been a big topic in reference to the evil eye, like some people may say, the evil eye or the healing eye, it is something that when you stare at something, what are you actually doing? Have y'all ever seen the X-Men with Cyclops? When Cyclops ups his glasses, how this beam of light comes from his eye, that is based on the science of the fluorescent lens on the back of your eye. And every time you stare at something, you're projecting a beam of light from the stored fluorescent lens. You project. So when you stare at something, so when you're trying to manifest something, the harder you stare at it, the harder you stare at something you're trying to manifest, you're projecting an energy of light towards it. This is magic. You see? You didn't have to summon anything. You didn't have to even conjure anything. What you're conjuring is the thought of your intentions, the thought of your desire as you stare at something. So when you want to heal somebody, for example, hands, eyes, hand projection, eyes staring. While you're staring at something, you're having internal thoughts. The internal thoughts for this person to heal. The internal thought of this person to get better, to feel better. And you're staring at them, you're projecting thought energy onto them. Because light is projecting from your eyes. The radiation, the magnetism, is created by the brain. Because you have those nanoparticles of magnetic ore in your brain. Your brain is very concentrated. One of the important things to remember about this is that the brain stem is the oldest part of the brain. It's the oldest. Meaning that when the sperm and the egg do their little thing, and mix themselves together, the first part that forms is the brain stem. So that's why it's the oldest. From the brain stem forms other parts of the brain, like the cerebellum, the medulla oblongata, the corpus callosum. All of these other parts form from the brainstem. The brainstem in particular is very concentrated with magnetite. It's magnetic. So this magnetic part of our brain has the ability, along with the corpus callosum, which is the second most saturated part of the brain, it has so much magnetite in it that it creates electromagnetic field. That's why when you go to the doctor and these doctors hook these little gadgets up to your head to measure your brain wave activity, what they're measuring is the activity of the projection of the magnetic field through the magnetite particles that's in your brain. So this is where the power, actually the centralized aspect of the power is at. But now, where at in the body is magnetite, this magnetic mineral in your hemoglobin. So why you ever notice when you go to the doctor, they say, we want to check your hemoglobin level? Yeah, because the hemoglobin level is very important in determining any illnesses and things of that nature. But your hemoglobin, which produces red blood cells, is very magnetic when deoxygenated. So when it's oxygenated, it has a very faint, weak magnetic field. But when it's deoxygenated, to be specific, it has a very strong magnetic field. And this is why in certain spiritual sciences, the holding of the breath is very important, because when you hold your breath, your body becomes extremely magnetized through the lack of oxygen that's being passed around through your hemoglobins. Okay? Magnetite is a mineral. It's an ore. It's very responsible for your magnetic field. We got to remember that. So how do we use it? How does it make sense in magic? Like I said earlier, if we were to separate all of the preconditioning programmings we received about magic, and we concentrate on our body as the strongest tool that we could ever use, we would understand that the level of magnetism we can create is very powerful. So, and sometimes, and in most cases, we don't need external tools. And this is what I call source energy engineering. That's what I call it nowadays. Source energy engineering, because we're dealing with the source energy that's what's in our body, and we're learning to use it at any given time to manifest extreme levels of intuitiveness, to manifest extreme levels of awareness, and to be able to project our energy out in high volume. You see? So when you stare at something, you're projecting energy at something. When you hold something in your consciousness long enough, it becomes magnetized by the presence it keeps in your mind. So it's very important to understand that we are the magic. We are. We are the magical tool. Magnetite is present in our body in a crystalline form. That's the catch. It's very present in our body in the form of crystals. Our brain and the pineal gland in particular, it produces a quartz crystal right there in our head. Just like how computers has quartz crystals inside of their processors, our brain, the pineal gland in particular, it grows an organic form of quartz crystal. It grows it naturally. A lot of us has been taught to keep our minds on, oh, I got to get a crystal. I got to get this quartz. I got to go order me a rose quartz. I got to go order me a clear quartz. When in actuality, the quartz is already in you. The most powerful crystal is already in you. It's right there in your brain. This is why brain health is very important. This is why when you focus your intentions on something very strong, you have the ability to naturally attract it to you. This is what the law of attraction has been trying to explain to people for many, many years. Just say, whatever you think about strong enough, it's going to come to you. This is the law of attraction, but people don't really break it down and explain what's going on inside you biochemically that is responsible. Sometimes people give credit to spirits. People give credit to other forces and entities, when in all actuality, you were designed by the universe as the greatest tool of your own magic. You were designed with magnetic minerals in your body. You were designed with crystals in your body. All over your body, there's crystals. You were designed with hemoglobins that are very magnetic. You see? This is why radiation affects humans. Radiation affects humans because it tampers with your magnetic field. So if you're sitting around a low vibrational device, such as a microwave, a television, holding cell phones to your ears and things like that, because cell phones emit radio wave frequency, where your brain creates and emits radio wave frequency. So the same way that we can have wireless communication is the same way we can have telepathic communication, because your brain produces wireless frequencies the same way a cell phone produces wireless frequencies. In fact, the cell phone, as well as computer systems, were designed based on the biochemical research of the brain and the human body and how it emits frequencies and how it absorbs frequencies. This is how wireless technology was actually created, by studying humans. The secret is that many people don't want to tell you. Many people don't want to show you. They would rather have you going around in circles. They would have you studying all kinds of things that would take you down various roads that all lead right back to where? It leads right back to you. It leads right back to knowing thyself. It leads right back to understanding yourself. But if you cut off of the accessories and deal with the actual mechanism itself, which is you, you'll learn to realize that you are magic. You are the repository. You are the gateway. You are the foundation of the magic in your life. And we have to learn how not to give credit to external entities, not to give credit to external beings, because most of them, in fact, most are just archetypes that have been created by the ancients to help us understand specific, various aspects of ourselves. Like I spoke about earlier with the demonstration of Raphael, it's the healing aspect of yourself. You are a healer. You have the ability to heal yourself. So the ancients taught in a specific way. They taught that this Raphael, this archangel energy, is the healing power of God. Where does it live? Where does it dwell? Some would say, oh, it's in another dimension. It's right in you, because within you are multiple dimensions. And because inside of you there is multiple dimensions, this is where the archangelic energy dwells. So this is the purpose of magic. This is the definition of magic. Understanding who you really are as a magical entity in the universe. When you understand who you are, you have to understand what you're composed of. You have gold, you have iron. All of these things are very present in your body. When you transmute all of these energies together, you create a huge magnetic field. You use your mind to control the magnetic field, and you'll be able to project out into the universe, and you'll be able to attract from the universe. So when we do certain things in magic, the creation of rituals, in my perspective, the creation of rituals is primarily a training wheel to understanding your own power. So when you do rituals every day, or every other day or for specific days or during specific times, when you do these rituals, what you're actually doing is training your mind. You're giving yourself an external platform to project your psychic energy upon. Once the training is done, you will become the inner temple. And the Kabbalah speak about this a lot. In the Kabbalah, and the Sefer Yetzirah, it speaks about it a lot. That you must become the inner temple of God. Becoming the inner temple of God. What does that mean? You are the inner temple. Inside of you is every mineral, every tool that you need to use in order to manifest your destiny. You just need to learn how to gain greater control and power over it. Because we live in a society where our consciousness is continuously extroverted. Like there's always something going on around us where we have to pay attention to. Pay. That means we have to give our attention to it. When you give your attention to things external to you, what you're actually doing is not paying attention to the things that are internal to you. And this is why it's hard in this society and culture that we live in. This is why it's very hard for us to harness psychic abilities the way we would like. Because we have television, we have social media, we have family issues, we have life issues, we have jobs, we have all kinds of different external factors that are very important to us, and we pay attention to it more than we pay attention to ourselves. And this is why it's very hard. This is why it's very hard, and this is why we have to use rituals, because we live in a society where everything is extroverted. So it becomes more accessible for us to use extroverted means to tap into our internal world. But once we learn how to minimize our consciousness from the externals and learn how to maximize our consciousness into our internal selves, and we learn to understand our bodies, we learn to understand what's really inside of us, other than organs, other than blood and blood vessels, what's in it, what is it composed of? When we learn to understand that we have magnetite, the lodestone, iron oxide, very magnetic material inside of us, in our brains and in our hemoglobins, we understand that we are the crystal. We are the crystallized beings. We are the crystals. And because we're the crystals, it's not that necessary for us to have crystals externally. Those are just training wheels. They're accessories. They can be added on to yourself. They can be added on into your projection for peace and prosperity. But ultimately, you are the tool of your own magic.